Mamas. It's Mama Fox. It's 4 p.m. Central on Friday, the end of the week, the beginning of the weekend. It's like my favorite. Friday's my favorite day of the week, by far, because I made it through the week and the weekend is all laid out. So much hope, so much excitement. It's my favorite day. I hope y'all are having a great day. I just want to say, if you're watching the replay, thanks for catching on the replay. I know that Friday afternoon is a busy time. I know it is. And so I fully expect many of y'all are going to be watching it later, maybe a day or two later. Totally fine. Hey ladies, it's so great to see y'all. So I want to tell you real quick, I've got on my 80-20 t-shirt and we're going to talk about 80-20 a little bit today. That is something that I use with my coaching mamas, my 8-week group, my Unstuck membership group. And I even talk about it in some of my workshops and classes. Now, I'm going to start with the 80-20 since you can see it, okay? This is a great t-shirt that Coach Canada made for me on her in her store, so you can go check those out. Here's the thing. 80-20 is a concept that gets thrown around in lots of different ways. There's like this little element of truth. Hey, Connie. There's like this little element of truth to it that kind of works no matter how you use it, to be honest. 80-20 in like the business world or whatever, goal world, if you want to call it that, can mean that you spend your efforts on 20% of the things that drive 80% of your business. Okay, that's a business principle I've heard a lot about. You spend the bulk of your time, 80% of your time on the 20% that drives the 80% of your business. I've seen this happen in churches, homeschool groups, friend groups, where 20% of the people do 80% of the stuff. Y'all know what I'm talking about. It's the same 20% people doing 80% of the work or the social or all that kind of stuff. There's a little element of truth there. Now, a lot of times, what sometimes happens with this 80-20 when we're talking about health or wellness or fitness is, and I don't know, maybe there's some coach out there that has said that. Not a THM coach. I mean like some other kind of coach. A lot of times what we'll see in our THM groups is ladies will think that this means 80% on plan and 20% off plan. No, that is not what it means. And I remember when a couple of years ago, maybe 2 or 3, when this kind of got thrown around in the THM groups, because I was teaching this principle in my coaching groups, but not that. I'm going to tell you in just a second. And some of my admin friends were like, what are you teaching them? And I'm like, I'm not telling them that. I'm not telling them to eat 20% off plan. That is not what it means in the Trim Healthy Mama, Mama Fox world, okay? So I'm bringing that up to you today because we're going to be talking about dairy-free, dairy light, all things dairy. And that's one of the places where I use the 80-20 in my own life and in my coaching life, okay? And with my clients and students and all the things, okay? So what I mean by that, for my stuck mamas, my stubborn losers, my unstuck mamas who want to stay unstuck and continue making progress, and pretty much anybody over 40, okay? That probably covers almost all of y'all, okay? We talk about this 80-20 in regards to things like dairy, okay? And I can't go into all of it right now, but basically what that means for us, those of us who were stuck and now we're unstuck, and we want to stay that way, and we want to keep making progress, and we want to be a maintenance mama for life, because as y'all probably seen, maintenance ain't for sissies. Maintenance does not mean that you get to just sit back and take your foot off the gas. Oh, no, 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 no. No, that is not what maintenance means. Not at all. It can look like that 80% of your meals, 80% of the time, you are eating with a very light-handed approach to dairy, a very light-handed approach to your S meals, okay? it can mean that 80% of the time your S meals are light S and maybe some deep S. And maybe 20% of the time your S meals are those fun, indulgent, heavy S meals. Okay. Now, in my 8-week group, we're on week 5 right now. We're not really having a lot of heavy S meals. We're not. We're taking a break from the heavy S for a very short time, not forever. And if you're watching and you're in the 8-week group, I promise you, heavy S is coming back, but we're putting it in its place. Okay. And heavy S often has dairy in it, very heavy dairy, but not always. I mean, you can have a heavy S that's like, peanut butter covered asparagus or something. I mean, it could be like peanut butter all over the place that's on plan, and it could be lots of other things. It doesn't have to only be dairy, but often it is. But that's what the 80-20 means. And that I wanted to start by talking about 80-20 because I don't want you to think I'm advocating that everyone, everywhere, all the time needs to be dairy free. No. So I'm starting with that, okay? I'm starting with that. You do not have to go dairy free all the time if you're not allergic. And I eat some dairy. And I'm not talking about just kefir. We're going to talk about that. I'm talking about dairy, okay? But I take the 80-20 approach. I might even be more like 90-10, okay? I've kind of upgraded myself to maybe 90-10. But I do take that approach where most of the time I'm not going to have dairy every time I turn around because I can tell a big difference when I lay off of it and go very light-handed and very selective with it, and when I like overdo it at Christmas, even on plan. I can tell. And that's kind of good to do. Sometimes it's good to kind of go a little crazy with your on-plan dairy and then take like a week or 2 break and just see. Just see how you feel. Just see how you sound. Just see how your snoring's going. Just see how you're thinking, just to kind of see. I do challenge you to try that. It's very interesting, okay? But that's the approach we want to take overall, unless you're allergic, truly allergic, of course, okay? But a lot of us, we may not be necessarily allergic, but we do need to be aware because it can raise inflammation, especially if you're someone like myself who just, my body wants to be inflamed. It does. I have RA. And so my body just wants to go there. And there's lots of other autoimmune diseases that can cause you to your body just wants to go there. It just really does. And so you want to be very mindful about how can you stack things in your favor so that you're not helping your body be inflamed, okay? And dairy is certainly one to look at just to kind of keep it in its place and be more mindful and selective about what dairy that you allow in on a regular basis. And what dairy you just decide to have, on occasion, okay? And if you're thinking, some of you said this, you're like, I think I need to go dairy-free. I've been thinking that for a while. I see that sometimes. I see ladies say, yeah, I kind of know it, and I kind of knew that about, I kind of knew it too, but we don't always want to do what we know because it's not always our favorite thing to do. I just want to encourage you, you don't have to go and just be completely dairy-free all at once. You don't have to do that. That might fit your personality, okay? That might fit your personality to say, you know what, I'm just going to go dairy-free for a whole month. And I support you in that. That would be like super awesome. But you may be someone like myself who it was just a journey over a year or 2 easily, where it was like, I'm just going to kind of start cutting back and trimming down and cutting out the dairy I don't really care about that much. And let's talk about the last holdout for Mama Fox, and that was my coffee. Because we all know coffee is precious. And that was my last big holdout was, I didn't really want to give up the dairy in my coffee. And I was kind of like, do I really need to do that? Is that really necessary? But then it finally became okay, I'm a big girl. I'm not gonna let this food boss me around. And I kind of was. I was kind of letting that food kind of boss me around and kind of like have way more control than it needed to have. And that kind of annoyed me. And so sometimes it's good to get a little annoyed about things like that. I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. I am an adult. That coffee cannot tell me what to do, or that creamer in that coffee, that half and half or cream. So I decided to just give it an honest try. And I'll be honest with you, this is where accountability and being in a group is invaluable. I highly recommend using this group or any other of the Trim Healthy Mama groups or any other coaches group. You really want, when you're doing something hard and when you're doing something that you're not entirely sure you really want to do, maybe your heart's not all the way in it, maybe your mind is like, yeah, I need to do it, and your heart's like, I don't want to. That is where an accountability group is priceless. And so for me, my personal accountability group is my membership group, my Unstuck Mamas membership group. That's my group too. And so they and I have challenged myself, and they have challenged me to do things for just a week or just a week. Anybody can do anything for a week. They have challenged me to do some things like go dairy free. That's what we're doing this week. We've done that before. It's been a while, but we do things like that in there because it's really important to maybe go dairy free and assess, or maybe it's really important to challenge yourself to eat this really healthy food that you just somehow have talked yourself out of. Those things are really important. And so it came down to the coffee, and we had a dairy free week probably almost 2 years ago, year and a half ago in the membership group. So I was like, okay, I am not drinking black coffee. I love coffee, but not black coffee. And so I had to find something. And you know what? It's been a journey to find just the right creamer for my coffee. So don't be afraid to try different things. You can ask in this group for ideas and suggestions, and you're going to get several because we all have different taste buds. It's kind of like if you asked for what's the best coffee place to go get a coffee or the best brand of coffee, you're going to get different options and different ideas because we have different taste buds. So just know that if you decide to try going dairy-free, including your coffee, then you'll probably want to find a creamer that will work, and there's several brands out there. So that's the good news. There's several brands out there that you can try, and there's many flavor ones and all that kind of stuff. But I also want to tell you, I did it that 1 week. Okay, I did it that 1 week, and I didn't love it. So it's okay if you don't love it. You can still do anything for 1 week. But I was determined to really give it a try. I really wanted to conquer it and be like, if I want to put dairy in my coffee, great. But if I don't want to, then I don't have to. But I wasn't there yet. And so after the dairy-free week in the membership group was over, I then went through a few weeks of using half and half in my coffee and half non-dairy creamer. Okay, so I kind of I made it easier for myself. So you have permission to make it easy for yourself. It's okay to wean yourself off of something. It's okay to not just be like ripping the Band-Aid off. Sometimes ripping the Band-Aid off is great. I do that sometimes, but sometimes it's also nice if you can be like, you know what? Half and half is on plan, right? Half and half is on plan. And if you're thinking, I don't really know if going dairy-free is going to help me or not, and you're not allergic, so you're not needing to rip the Band-Aid off, and you just want to slowly transition, then use your half and half with some non-dairy creamer and mix that in and blend that together. That's a great way to do it. That's a great way to do it. Transition slowly, because coffee is precious. And I will tell you what I had done up to that point is I had gone very dairy light, very 80-20. I had gotten to the point where I'd gone very dairy light, and really the only dairy left that I had regularly was my coffee. And that was okay. That was where I was at that point, and I stayed there for a long time. So I also want to encourage you, if you're thinking that it would be wise to help yourself get unstuck, like maybe you've been stuck at the weight you're at for a while now and you still have more to lose or more you want to lose, or maybe you just feel a little kind of maybe less energetic, maybe a little weighted down. If you're feeling that, or maybe your voice quality or you're snoring at night or whatever, if you're feeling that, then, but coffee is precious, then definitely consider just kind of cutting out most all the dairy for a season And if you want to have half and half in your coffee, you have my permission to have half and half in your coffee. That's okay. That's not like, I'm going to trust that you're not drinking like a half a cup in your cup of coffee, right? I'm trusting that you're using like a splash or a tablespoon. So that's also okay too. That's where I stayed for a long time. And even by keeping the half and half in my coffee, but going dairy light in other areas, I had great benefit. Okay. So that's just my personal opinion on that. The second thing I want to talk to you about is, what I hear a lot is, oh, but I love cheese. Oh, Mama Fox, I just love cheese. I just love cheese. And I get that. Because it's comforting and it's easy. You don't have to cook it if you don't want to. You can just grab it and have some. And it's kind of salty and it can be savory. I get it. What I would say to you, if you're going to enjoy cheese on plan, the very best way to do that will support your health and your trim as an over 40 mama, as a stuck mama who wants to get unstuck and stay unstuck. The best way to do that, 80-20, okay? Be very selective about when you have your cheeses. If at all possible, and I know this is a tough time right now, but if at all possible, try to reach for cheeses that are more higher quality, possibly organic, because they're going to be healthier. They're going to be fed, the cows are fed healthier things, and that in turn is going to bless your health in turn. And reach for those cheeses that are just like really strong and high quality, because you'll find that while they might be more expensive, you won't eat as much of them. Partly because mentally you're like, oh my gosh, this is like $1 a bite. Woo! But also those better cheeses, the ones that are like over in the deli as opposed to the dairy, you know what I'm talking about? Those better cheeses are going to be a little more satisfying, even when you eat less of it. But take that 80-20 approach with your cheeses. You don't have to cover everything in cheese. You really don't. Or go very light-handed. I know one of our admins years and years ago, when Stubborn Loser Menu number 1 and 2 came out. I believe Stubborn Loser Menu 1 and 2 kind of, they sort of came out together. This was a long time ago, guys. And some of the admins decided to do Stubborn Loser Menu 1 and 2 together and kind of test it out in a little group. And I remember one of our admins, she's such a smart mama, knows how to listen to her body. I'm learning how to listen to my body. She just intuitively knows how to listen to her body. And I remember her talking about how over her journey at that point, which had probably been about 3 or 4 years, she was learning to go very light with a light hand with the cheese. So like if you've got a casserole and you're supposed to put, 2 cups of cheese on top, she was learning to go very light so that she gets the flavor, but not all the gobs. So I think that's the biggest thing, is like we want to go for a sprinkle, not a gob. And a gob is a real measurement. And when I say gob of cheese, immediately you know exactly what I mean. I don't even got to explain gob. You know what I mean by gob. And so you can still have your cheese, but maybe pull back. Maybe not gobs. Light sprinkling will really go a really long way. Speaking of cheese, because I can do without it for the most part, but I do love a little Parmesan cheese on top of spaghetti, okay, or something like that sometimes. And so recently, maybe about a month or 2 ago, I decided to buy a little jar of just not fresh, but like Parmesan cheese. It's not the green can. I decided to not buy the green can. And I bought a little glass jar of some Parmesan cheese that had it didn't have any filler or additive. Wow. Wow. What a difference. You don't need to gob it on because it's so flavorful and potent. You just need a light sprinkling. So when you reach for those things like that, as you can, and I know right now money's crazy, but it'll make a big difference, okay? Now, number three, let's talk about kefir. That one's easy. I don't count kefir as dairy. There, we're done. This is Mama Fox talking. I personally, talking to my mamas, my unstuck mamas, my 8-week group mamas, all my other mamas, I don't count milk kefir in the same category as cheddar cheese or cottage cheese or cream cheese. It's a whole other class of its own because of the process it's gone under with the kefir grains or whatever. It's a whole nother thing. It's on a whole nother playing field. It is so healthy and so good for you that definitely. So even in my membership group this week, we're going dairy free. No, if we want to have our daily kefir, because many of my mamas in there, they are smart mamas, and they've learned that a cup of kefir a day, especially at night, just saying, especially at night before bed, is so beneficial to their gut health, but also their sleep, okay? And they don't want to go without that, and I don't want them to go without that either. Now, in the past, 6 months, our THM world was kind of flipped over a little bit when Pearl and Serene shared that they no longer felt like Lifeway Kefir was really something they wanted to endorse as kefir per se. It is still on plan in their minds. It's still on plan, but it's more along the lines of yogurt, which is on plan, Greek yogurt. So that's just kind of interesting. So if you're wanting to go dairy free, then the Lifeway Kefir probably might want to take a little break from that one maybe. But I can tell you making your own kefir is so easy. And it doesn't matter if you do the easy kefir way that I'm doing right now or kefir grains. It's so easy and it's so inexpensive. I really want to encourage you to investigate that because if anything, it's so much more economical. You do have to get some kefir grains. You might have to buy them, but they last forever. You might get some from somebody. But personally, I count dairy kefir, milk kefir in a different class of its own. That's just me. If you were to ask someone else, they might give you a different answer. But that's the answer I give my mamas, is that dairy kefir is just a whole nother class of its own. It's actually been shown to be anti-inflammatory, and the things that it does for the gut health, the brain health, the anxiety and stress and sleep, it's phenomenal. And so I highly endorse it for sure. And I do encourage you to check into possibly making it. But I also, this is Mama Fox. I am not Pearl and Serene. They know stuff I don't know. I do want to say, for me personally, I used to make kefir with grains. And then one of my daughters blended them by accident in the blender. So I lost my grains. And I just didn't get any more for 2.5 years. And instead, I took advantage of Publix BOGO and bought Lifeway Kefir for 2.5 years and used it. So there's that. And during that 2.5 years, I made great strides in my gut health and in my car panic attacks and in my driving. So I'm just saying, whatever that means. I don't know. But I do want to say, I think that buying the kefir at the store is a great way to start, for sure. If the idea of making it is like, oh, I cannot add another thing, Mama Fox. I can't even keep a plant alive. I cannot add another thing. I understand. That's exactly where I was. And so buying the kefir and getting used to having it and getting used to the taste of it and using it and watching for those BOGOs at Publix, which they have often on the kefir, I think that's a great stepping stone. But maybe in 2023, because this is just February the 3rd, maybe in 2023, your goal could be that by the end of the year, you're making kefir, okay? Maybe you're going to start out just by buying it and doing it and making it a habit. And then by the end of 2023, you are making it and telling other people how to make it. That would be a great goal. Totally doable, and it will be life-changing. So that is definitely one dairy I highly endorse. And I would endorse it as an 80-20 with it being the 80, okay? Absolutely, that's the 80. Cheddar cheese and cream cheese is the 20, kefir is the 80. I hope that makes sense. I hope that was helpful to you all. And definitely, if you have if you have some mama friends that are not quite sure about kefir, they're not quite sure about dairy, or maybe they're kind of struggling, or maybe they're stuck in their journey and they're doing all the things, they're on plan and they're doing all the things and they're just stuck, this might be a really good video to tag them on, just to give them some encouragement of some things they could try to help themselves get unstuck. I want to leave you with this thought. Even if you decide to go dairy-free, maybe you think you need to, even if you decide to go dairy-free for a week or a month, it doesn't mean that dairy has to go away forever. It doesn't. It's your choice. You're in control of this. And there's lots of wonderful dairy that's on plan, and there's recipes that have dairy. But if anything, you may find that you'll be more selective and more careful and more thoughtful about your dairy, and that is really going to benefit you in getting unstuck and staying unstuck. And I know that my mamas, yes, absolutely, and Angela, you're right. Yes, when I say I don't count it as the dairy, I'm talking about this dairy. It's still dairy, right? Kefir is still dairy, but I don't count it in that same category as dairy that we need to be concerned about with keeping us stuck, or things that we need to like dial down a lot. You know what I mean? I know you know, but definitely it's still dairy if you're allergic. Now, what we have seen is, like for me, I'm not allergic to dairy, but my body doesn't do as well with it. I can tell, but it's not an allergy, and it's not a lactose intolerant. I don't have that issue either. But I can just tell that I feel better. I think better. I have more energy. I have a clearer voice quality. I'm not snuffly, those kind of things. My joints don't feel stiff. It's not that dairy makes my joints ache. There are some things that make my joints ache. It's not that dairy makes my joints ache, but they feel stiffer. But kefir doesn't do that. Okay, it doesn't do that at all. And so it's in a whole nother category as in the dairy field, if that makes sense. So anyway, I hope that was helpful. I hope you have a great weekend. If you have a mama friend that needs this, please tag them. And I would love to challenge you, just unofficially, I would love to challenge you to go dairy-free next week. You can do it. You can totally do it. And I'll even give you a caveat. Because coffee is precious, and I am so serious about that. I would challenge you to go dairy-free next week. But if you want to still have your dairy in your coffee, you can do it. But see if you can go dairy-free in your meals and snacks next week. Give yourself a challenge to do that. I want to give you a heads up. I put out, where did I put it? It was here just a minute ago. I put out I know where it's at. Sorry guys, it's right here. Let me roll away. I put out the Year at a Glance. It's here. I think it's here in the files. Isn't it, guys? I believe so. This is my Year at a Glance. And I know it's all backwards, but in March, in March, we're going to have a 2-week challenge. So that's something I'm doing differently in here. First thing I'm doing is getting back to doing lives every week. Now that my house is all done and I can be home, and hallelujah, more predictable. So each Friday at 4 p.m., I'll be going live to either teach on a topic, share on a topic, encourage, and answer questions. So that's coming. In the past, I've tried different things where I used to do a free one-week challenge every other month. And then I've even done a free 5-day challenge every month. But this year in 2023, I'm going to do free 2-week challenges every few months. And so it won't be as often, but I think by going for 2 weeks on our challenge, I see this in my 8-week group all the time. We are going to move some needles in our 2-week challenges. It's going to be so exciting. So in March, coming up in March, we are going to have an anti-inflammatory 2-week challenge. Now, I am not going to tell y'all all the details yet, but I just want you to give you a heads up. That 2-week challenge is going to take place probably in the first 2 or 3. It won't be at the end of the month. It'll be in the beginning of the month. Hopefully before spring breaks and stuff, because I know that can be crazy. But we are going to have a 2-week anti-inflammatory challenge in this group. It will be totally free. There will be prizes and all the things. Oh my goodness gracious. If you have any mama friends that you suspect struggle with inflammation, or that you know struggle with inflammation, please get them in here. Because even when we know we need to do something, like I mentioned, even when we know we probably should stop this and start that, it's really hard to do it on your own. It just is. It's hard to do it when you're the only one doing it. But when you have a group of hundreds of women doing it with you, and you know you're not doing it alone, it gets a lot easier, okay? So in March, anti-inflammatory 2-week challenge, and that's what I'll be doing this year. So if you haven't gotten this document yet, it doesn't give you like detailed dates, but it does give you a heads up when the 2-week challenges will be. And on this document, the monthly categories, these little kind of lighter gray, those are for my membership group. But if there's a 2-week challenge written on top of it, that's what our 2-week challenge is going to be about, okay? That's how you'll kind of know. You'll have an idea of what our 2-week challenge is going to be. It's either going to be related to that or possibly the masterclass that'll be offered that month for sure, but it'll be related to one of those. So you can kind of have an idea, kind of get a heads up, and you can kind of plan for that. But I'm excited. We haven't ever done 2-week challenges in here before, but I'm pretty excited because I see what happens in just 2 weeks in the 8-week group I do, my Stuck Mama group. It's amazing what can happen in 2 weeks, just 2 weeks. I have so many mamas that come to me and they feel like they're so stuck, and they are stuck. I don't mean that they aren't. They're stuck, and they feel like they can't get unstuck. And they feel like they're spinning their wheels because they're doing all the right things, and they're spinning their wheels. And in 2 weeks, they're unstuck already. Like in the first 2 weeks of the 8-week group, they're already unstuck. Isn't that exciting and motivating, right? When you suddenly realize, wait a minute, if I just do these few little things, like, it's amazing. When something changes, right? So I'm excited about that for us. I cannot wait. That'll be in March. More to come on that. And next week, Lord willing, and the creek don't rise, I plan on going live here at 4 p.m. Central again. And we're going to talk about some other on-plan foods that you might want to take a harder look at if you grapple with inflammation, okay? So stay tuned for that. I'll announce that more later, but we're going to look at some more foods that may be raising your inflammation, and when that happens, it holds you back from maybe feeling the way you want, looking the way you want, getting those numbers you want, okay? So hopefully that information will be helpful to you so you can be empowered, because knowledge is power, and then you can make choices based on what's going to work best for you and what you need. Okay? All right, ladies, thanks for joining me. I appreciate y'all so much. I hope you have a great weekend. Bye-bye.